When it comes to supplemental feeding, you will want to feed your pup every 3 to 4 hours. For the more trickier pups and in general, I like to have an array of options when I feed every 3 to 4 hours. So, what that looks like is if you have on board ground chicken, shredded chicken, ground beef, we like to do fresh pet as well. Gerber baby food, Caesars, any type of soft food. In particularly, we love fresh pet just because it's so easy to serve and it's fully cooked. In addition to that, we like Activia. That's another great option. But typically, 3 to 4 options during the feeding would be perfect. I also like to feed the pup in a pen or their little area of where they sleep. And I like to take out all the toys, all the bones, and everything that would cause distractions just to make it a boring, kind of safe space for them so that they focus on eating. Because just like children or infant and toddlers, they get distracted and they want to run off and they want to play. So it's super important to make a boring, quiet, safe space when you are feeding to avoid your frustration and to make a smoother feeding process. But I do like to every Sunday meal prep. So I'll do a big vat of chicken. I boil it, I grill it, pan sear it, whichever is easiest for you. This today, I just shredded it and chopped it up pretty nicely. Same with the ground beef. We like using 93.7 for the ground beef ratio. That's the best. We don't typically microwave them or heat them up. I usually just before I clean, the kennel in the morning, I let them sit out at room temperature on the counter. So no need to microwave, just let them kind of rise to room temperature. You don't want to suck out the moisture. You want to keep the moisture in, and it's kind of contrary to belief. You want to warm it up for them, but the microwave will actually extract the moisture. So they need that. That's super important. When you are feeding the supplemental meals like the Gerber baby food, Caesars, and fresh pet, any type of soft, wet food, typically the pup won't drink a lot of water because they're getting a lot of moisture and they're hydrating through the soft foods. So if you physically don't see your pup drinking water, but they're still going, number one, they're still going potty, you know that they're hydrated. So no need to panic with that. We've had a lot of families worry with the hydration factor if they're not drinking a lot of water. Now, if they aren't drinking a lot of water and they aren't going potty, then we've got a problem, and contact us, reach out to us, and then we can walk you through what to do. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you a breakdown of our process here and demonstrate with a pup that is a little bit trickier with food options. She's just been a little sensitive with what she likes and doesn't like, so it kind of takes a little bit of coaxing in terms of what we can find she likes. But typically what I do is I put down paper towel strips just because it's an easier cleanup. You can, if you have the time to put down a bunch of bowls or plates, that's perfectly fine too. But I do one big handful of the chicken and I try to shred it up as best as I can so it's really, really small and they don't choke. I do a big handful of the ground beef, and I will keep replenishing bigger piles if they decide to go to that pile. I do keep everything separate and simple, just because sometimes if you mix things together, they may not like it, and then you can't distinguish what they don't like if you mix things together. So that's the fresh pet I was talking about. And then the Gerber baby food, I will put on a dish here because it is a little bit softer and wet. And then also the Activia as well. I'll use this side. Awesome. Perfect. So, and it's very specific. I should mention the Activia is vanilla and that specific brand and flavor only. We do not recommend blueberry, strawberry, peach, or anything like that, but this brand and flavor only. So we will demonstrate with a little bit of a trickier pup. This is our little Morkie, or excuse me, this is our little Yorkie, Sean. She is super sweet, her little tail wag. So typically what I do is I prompt, that she's eating. She obviously will kind of go to whatever pile she wants. And there's a lot of redirections. So if she does kind of dart off and want to play, I will redirect this is feeding. I also like to kind of get them a little kickstart is you can hand feed. She's not interested in that. Sometimes I also like to, with the prompting with the Gerber, you can tap their nose. And that kind of lets them lick it off and activates that she actually likes that, even though she smelled it. She dismissed it, but I prompted by tapping her nose, and she liked that. But see, this is all very, very normal. I mean, she's been eating, these items, but it just takes a little bit more coaxing and patience and a lot of redirection. So I'll try with the Activia, tap her nose a little bit, and it will activate and see if she likes that. Do you want that? So a little bit there. But it's funny because with these little ones that are tricky, I have all these options out, and she smelled each pile and she kind of dismissed each and walked past them. So always kind of bringing them back and redirecting back and prompting, that kind of activates, oh, I really do like that. She's eating. That's so funny. Which, of course, you can serve in the jar. However, you will notice that they will cake their nose. They will get extremely messy around their muzzle. So that's why I do like to put the Gerber, any type of really wet food, on a bowl. Let's see if we can get her to come back over here. Come here. And of course, kind of like children, they do have ADD. So she's kind of wandering and checking out her area. So there's just a lot of redirection. And sometimes families will see that, she's wandering and she has a little bit of ADD and not really focused. And they think, oh, well, she's not hungry right now. So then they dismiss it and they clean everything up and they put it all away. But actually, she is hungry. She just needs a lot of redirection and kind of honing in on that. Let's see. You want some of this again? There you go. All right, let's see if she wants some fresh pet. Yes, okay. So it's also important when you are feeding, as I mentioned before, she's going after the chicken now, that's great. Putting them in a quiet space. So if you do have children in the household, kind of having them get down to her level and sitting on the ground just like I am, and you can as well. It's super important to kind of level with them and make them feel like you're not threatening them, in the sense where if you're crouching or standing above them, they may not feel as comfortable. And especially in the beginning, they're still learning about their new environment, bonding to you, beginning to trust you. And that happens more and more frequently when they learn to trust you through the increased feedings. So it's super important to kind of get down to their level. We call this the buffet. So it's pretty funny, but it sounds like this is a lot of work, to do each and every single feeding, but it is super important, especially with these trickier ones, the pickier ones. You have to offer a lot of options and see where they go. But their little tummies are like the size of, their stomachs are the size of a walnut or a golf ball. So I would say that amount intake would be good at each feeding, or at least half that amount would be perfect. And this is just for the first 2 weeks. It's not forever. So don't feel like you have to create this buffet style for the rest of their lives. But this is just kickstarting that trust and that bond being built, and ensuring that they're eating. That's super important within the first 2 weeks, because they go through some stressful times, leaving their litter mates, leaving us. It's a lot of change in their environment. So bonding with them through food and increasing those food interactions are super, super important. I usually spend about 30 minutes right here. So with what you see, I spend 30 minutes with leaving stuff out. And then after, 30 to 40 minutes, I put everything back in my Tupperware containers and I save it for the next feeding. So don't feel like you need to throw this away or it's spoiled or leave it out all day. That's certainly, she's going to play with the chicken. So 30 minutes, I would say I would spend that amount of time with feeding and being patient with them. And it's funny how most pups, they like the flat surface, you know, putting it on a paper towel or a little flat bowl. She's actually going after the Tupperware containers, which is perfectly fine too. But, you know, each and every pup is different. So I always like to show the different possibilities with that. And I also want to mention that it doesn't have to be a whole lot. Like, she doesn't have to eat all of these meal items that are presented here. It's just a little bit, kind of like snacking at each and every meal. That's what we want to see. Just something going down into her belly. You know, that's super important. A lot of families worry about that. Well, she only had, you know, 5 licks of Gerber. She only had a couple bites of the ground beef. That is okay. You know, as long as something is going down, we are happy with that. And this is an extremely normal feeding experience for a teacup, you know, a really small breed like this. And granted, I mentioned she's a little bit pickier, so this is extremely normal. And now I have another example I wanted to demonstrate, kind of to see the difference between the two feeding styles. She's a better, I would say, more consistent eater, and I just wanted to kind of show the difference here. This is a mini poodle named Ginger. She was just sleeping, so she's a little nervous. But let's see what we can do. Hi, little girl. Want to see that? Try this. And they're both the same ages, just so you can see the difference in styles of eating, same age. I'm a little bit more hands-off because she's been such a consistent eater, and she's been a little bit hardier with eating. So if she does get distracted and likes to, you know, take off and play, then I will redirect again like I did with the Yorkie Sean. But she's doing pretty good. And whenever a pup, you know, eats whatever item that they're going after, and they eat the whole item, you know, until it's gone, keep replenishing until they walk away. You want to feed as much as you possibly can within the first 2 weeks. You know, there's no rationing, there's no cutting them off. You know, kind of think of it in terms of you bring a NICU baby home from the hospital. You wouldn't want to take the bottle away from them when they're eating. So the same idea with these little pups. You know, you want to overfeed them. You don't want to underfeed them. That's actually a common issue. The Activia yogurt too, the vanilla specifically, I think it's more so that they like the sugar content in there, and it's also has a probiotic in it. So it's a little bit sweeter, of course. So I think that's also why they like it. And in the Activia yogurt as well, it's not too much sugar and it's not too little of an amount. It's the perfect amount, I feel like, with the ratio of sugar and probiotic for these pups. So that's why we do like this specific brand and this specific flavor. It's the perfect ratio. So while she's tending to that Activia, I will jump through some of this process with the bag. We have a puppy transition kit, which you may have purchased. And in the bag, we have 2 jars of the Gerber baby food. I opened up one already. We like the chicken and gravy. We also like the turkey and gravy. We like the beef and gravy. We don't like the ham and gravy. It just doesn't have the best quality of meat for the ham and gravy flavor. So we like to stick with the other ones. But in your transition kit, there will be 2 jars of Gerber baby food. There will be a Caesar's puppy soft food. There will also be some syringes. So we have 2 pre-filled syringes. These are filled with Karo syrup. It's actually like sugar syrup, essentially. It's found in the baking aisle at any grocery store, but this keeps their glucose levels elevated. It helps with hypoglycemia. I don't know if you've ever heard that word before, but it's something that happens when the pup doesn't eat enough nutrition, and then they burn through all of their energy levels, and they play. And since they didn't have enough nutrition, they kind of spiral into this kind of sugar crash, we like to call it. So this is super important to combat that, of course, along with, in conjunction with, you know, feeding quite frequently. But this would be good to put a pea-size amount on whatever item that they're eating. So for this example, since she ate a lot of the Activia, I would have put a pea-size amount, just drizzling it on top. Let's say she didn't eat anything and you sat here for 30 minutes. You could actually just put a pea-size amount on your index finger and let them lick it off. That's perfectly fine too. But these are good for specifically really little ones like that Yorkie Sean we had before in the video. And we would instruct you on when you need to give this. So if you have a bigger pup, let's say like a mini Bernedoodle, mini Golden Doodle, it wouldn't maybe be as necessary to do this at every single feeding, but we would walk you through, if you ever needed this, we'd walk you through exactly when to give it and how much and all that good stuff. But with these little ones, you know, pea-size amount at every feeding would, if you can remember, would be great. And this will take you a good while, a couple weeks to kind of get through. And once these are finished, you can just clean them out and save them for if you ever need them in the future. But you don't need it to necessarily continue on with providing, K-Row. So if you ever run into a situation where the pup skips 2 meals in a row, very important, 2 meals in a row back to back, and you have the whole buffet out and you've literally tried everything. We call it, throwing the kitchen sink at them, and they will not eat anything. Or if they are lethargic, not active, not playing, maybe they've vomited, you would want to contact us right away. So you can text us, you can call us, let us know kind of like a timeline of when they ate last or they didn't eat last and what is going on. At that point, we'd want to have you syringe feed the pup. In your transition kit that we kind of touched on earlier, there is a feeding syringe, a 3 ml, and I actually just drew up a little bit of Activia here. And typically what I do is I put them on a flat surface like this, and I use my thumb and my index finger, and I gently grab at the lower jaw, and I do a little bit at a time right on the tongue there, let them lick it back. You don't want to give too much or too fast of a syringe feeding. You don't want them to aspirate if you kind of shoot it back at the back of their throat. So it's super important you just do a little bit at a time. I would say 1 ml over a 5 to 10 minute span, but we would walk you through exactly what to do. And one full syringe over a 5 to 10 minute span. So she's getting a little squirmy. And I typically, like if I'm home alone and I don't have help to kind of support, I kind of sandwich them between my legs and again, gently grab at the corner of the mouth. And this is normal to see. I mean, they kind of become like this bucking bronco and they don't understand why you're grabbing the mouth. So you're not hurting them, I promise you. This is for their benefit, absolutely. So just kind of be patient with them, but you would want to kind of be firm with opening the mouth a little bit at a time. Let them lick it back slowly. If you don't feel comfortable with that style, you can place the food right in the pocket of the cheek and let them lick it back as well. So that is syringe feeding. But of course it is beneficial if you do have an extra set of hands to help you with syringe feeding because, they can get a little bit wild and move their head and then stuff goes flying everywhere. But obviously I've had a lot of experience and a lot of practice, but we would walk you through exactly how much to give and what to do in that case if you needed to syringe feed. So I will let her kind of go and see what she wants to eat right now. So the next in the bag is Pepto-Bismol, and this would be great to give in the circumstance where you reach out to us and you let us know that maybe they haven't eaten within 6 hours. They skipped 2 meals in a row and they vomit. If you ever see any vomit, please take a picture, send it to us. It's super important to see. We can tell a lot by the contents of that. So in that circumstance where you see vomit, based on the color, the consistency, what's in it, we would basically have you give probably 0.5 of Pepto-Bismol, but we would walk you through it again. So don't feel like you're alone. You have lifetime support with us. We're always here with you every step of the way, so don't feel like you're alone. But this is really important. It kind of just neutralizes the tummy, especially if you see any throw up that's yellow, that's bile buildup. That means that they have not eaten enough nutrition and they are so acidic that they're throwing up yellow. We never want to get to that point, and if we do, we must do Pepto-Bismol, super important. In here is Fortiflora. It's actually a probiotic, and it has been really successful in terms of supportive GI tract care. You know, in the first few days, 2 weeks, their nerves are still kind of going and they're a little stressed out. And this has been great to kind of have more supportive in the gut flora and the GI tract. And if you guys have any other questions, you know, and you want more material to review, we do have YouTube videos. We have so much content on all of this and more. So please reach out to us. Let us know if you'd like more. We have a lot of families that are detail oriented, so they like that. And we'd be happy to share that with you. We just want you to have a smooth and wonderful experience with us and with your new pup. So let us know.